Peppa experienced terrible nightmares every night. She told her mother about them. Then her mother opened an old dusty jewelry box and found an ancient pendant. "This is a magical thing. It protects children from bad dreams and evil creatures," she explained. Receiving the gift, Peppa immediately put it on before going to bed. But that night she was again haunted by a terrifying nightmare. In her dream, she saw George, who had turned into a disgusting monster with bulging eyes, long claws, and sharp teeth. Thick green slime dripped from George's mouth as he slowly approached her, emitting a disgusting hissing sound. In the morning, Peppa told her mother everything, but she remained indifferent, repeating that the pendant would definitely work. The next night, the nightmares grew stronger and more realistic. She found herself in a dark corridor of her house, dimly lit by flickering bulbs. Suddenly, the figure of her father appeared, but he had transformed into a huge pig monster with dark red eyes, a long neck, terrifying claws, and crooked teeth. The creature approached Peppa, growling loudly. Waking up in the middle of the night, Peppa discovered she was alone in her bedroom. Her father was gone. When Peppa tried to take off the jewelry, it suddenly came to life and began stretching out, transforming into a chain of countless eyes, mouths, and limbs trying to grab her with their tentacles. Terrified, Peppa screamed and ran into another room. There, she encountered George. His body had stretched into a shapeless mass covered with numerous toothed mouths and claws. Peppa shouted and ran into the living room. But there she was, met by George and her father. Peppa ran back to her room, trying to hide from them. Suddenly, the walls trembled. Furniture started moving on its own, and a voice from nowhere whispered,
"The pendant didn't protect you because I created it. I made it to lure you into a trap of eternal nightmares."
Horrified, Peppa saw her mother enter the room, but she was now covered with many eyes, hands, and legs, with a frightening, distorted grimace on her face. Peppa was about to run away when the door slammed shut. The lights went out. A heartbreaking scream escaped Peppa's lips as the monster's mocking laughter echoed around her. Peppa walked into the store. Miss Rabbit was standing by a vending machine fixing something. "Pay attention to the mirror on the wall." In its reflection, a different Miss Rabbit. Black eyes, a mouth stretched ear to ear, black liquid dripping from the corners. Peppa said anxiously,
"Miss Rabbit, something's not right."
Miss Rabbit approached the mirror. In her reflection, the same terrifying smile. Her face briefly aligned with the reflection. Black eyes, a wide grin.
"Trick of the light, haha,"
she said casually. Peppa noticed a mirrored jewelry box on the counter. It was empty inside, the bottom made of mirror. But in the mirror of the box, not Peppa's reflection, but writhing black tendrils reaching downward. It wasn't a window, it was a door. Peppa dropped the box and shattered it. Black liquid seeped from the shards, and thin tendrils crawled out of it. They slowly reached for Peppa's legs. Panicked, Peppa ran deeper into the store and leapt into a dark back room, slamming the door shut. On the back wall, a large antique mirror covered with a dusty cloth. The cloth twitched as if someone were breathing behind it. Suddenly, it flew off by itself. In the mirror, not Peppa, but a distorted version of her. Black eyes, a wide, unnatural smile. Tendrils burst from the mirror, gripping the frame. The reflected Peppa reached a hand through the mirror. Her fingers dripped with black liquid. The real Peppa slowly walked forward, eyes wide. She wasn't moving on her own. There was the sound of glass cracking, distorted Peppa laughter, the rustle of tendrils. Peppa stepped out of the back room. She was smiling, but her eyes flashed red for a split second. A black drop slid from the corner of her mouth, a shard of mirror on the floor. In it, the same horrifying reflection of Peppa flickering. Miss Rabbit's pharmacy. Peppa walked in. The place was empty. Only the neon signs buzzed softly. Behind the counter stood a porcelain mannequin in a white coat, its face smooth and blank. Peppa approached the counter. Two black slits suddenly appeared on the mannequin's face. Thick black liquid oozed from its mouth. The mannequin reached out a hand. Peppa recoiled. The shelves trembled. Something was moving inside the medicine bottles. Tentacles crawled out from under the counter. They slithered toward Peppa. The pharmacist mannequin stepped out from behind the counter. Its movements were sharp and creaky. A grimace of pain formed on its smooth face. Peppa ran toward the storeroom. A vial fell from a shelf and shattered. From the puddle, black finger-like tentacles grew. Pharmacy storeroom. Darkness, the smell of medicine and rot. Peppa lit up the shelves with her flashlight. Boxes were stained with sticky black blotches. Bandages on the floor squirmed like snakes. The beam caught a figure sitting in the corner. Miss Rabbit, wrapped in sticky black bandages. Her eyes were crusted shut. Her mouth was sewn shut with thick black thread. Miss Rabbit's eyes snapped open. They were hollow black voids. Peppa dropped the flashlight. Tentacles from the bandages grabbed her leg. The pharmacist mannequin stood in the storeroom doorway, smiling. Peppa tore free and ran through the front hall. The bottles on the shelves burst open. Black shadows with red eyes crawled out. A chorus of hissing voices. Glass shattering everywhere. Peppa burst through the door and slammed it shut behind her. Pounding from the other side, the door trembled. She turned to the display window. The glass was coated on the inside with thick black fluid. In the reflection stood Peppa, but behind her, the clear silhouette of the pharmacist mannequin. A tentacle hand reaching toward Peppa's neck in the reflection. Real Peppa touched her neck. It was sticky. Peppa and George were building a castle in the sandbox. The sand beneath their feet trembled. Suddenly, holes appeared in the ground. Dark, sticky pits. A black tentacle grabbed George's dinosaur. The holes vanished instantly. The sand felt cold, heavy. Round mounds started to rise all around. One of them opened, revealing a black, sandy mouth full of teeth. Peppa grabbed George and they ran toward the house. The mouth growled behind them. Waves of sand rippled under their feet. Evening. The backyard. Shadows were growing longer. From a new hole, George's dinosaur crawled out, covered in shiny black sand, its red eyes glowing. The toy turned its head and looked at Peppa. The dinosaur's teeth had turned black. All the sandy patches in the yard began to stir. Tentacles of black sand stretched out toward the children. The entire yard became a sea of moving black sand. A giant faceless figure emerged. In its mouth, absolute darkness. Peppa and George ran into the house. On the walls, a flickering reflection appeared. Behind Peppa stood 1,000 barely visible sandy hands. Peppa slammed the door shut. George was crying. Black sand tapped against the glass and crept up the walls of the house. Soon it began slipping under the door. Grains of sand fell from the ceiling onto Peppa's shoulder. She ran to the kitchen. The hourglass on the table flipped over, and the sand inside turned black. In the window's reflection, Peppa saw her own face, but her eyes were filled with black sand. The walls began to form a shifting message, written in sand. "You will not leave." Peppa returned to the hallway. A shadow flickered. George was standing there, but without a face and with eyes made of black grains. In the corner of the room, the sand gathered into a tall arch, through which distant laughter could be heard, though no one was laughing.